Show me a word that rhymes with pop screen, but not just yet, because we're about to give you our latest episode about Pavements, the new film by Alex Ross Perry. We are that corner of the Geek Show that likes to look at the good, the bad, and the preposterous of movies either starring by or about pop stars. I'm your host, Graham Williamson. I'm a filmmaker and video artist, and I write regularly for the Geek Show and sometimes for Byline Times as well. And I've been joined this week by
Simon Ramshaw. Hello, Graham. How are you?
Good. Yes, this is your first time on the free feed, isn't it?
It might be.
Yeah.
I was on the kneecap one, which you had to pay for the privilege.
It was a Patreon.
Of.
Yeah.
I think it might be. Yes. So, hello, free people of the world.
Yeah. Hello, cheapskates. Yes. This is an interesting one because I brought this to you because I saw it. You'd listed as wanted to see on your Letterboxd.
Yeah.
And while we haven't talked too much about the film, I did find out that we are approaching this from massively different standpoints, which is always quite fun.
Yeah, I am going to have to be the plebeian here, and basically be the person who admits he had never heard of Pavement before the announcement that Alex Ross Perry was doing a documentary sort of hybrid movie about them. And that is the thing that kind of attracted me to the project. I've quite enjoyed Alex Ross Perry's work in the past. I particularly like Queen of Earth with Elizabeth Moss and Catherine Waterston. I think that's a really fantastic psychological horror. So when I saw that he was moving a bit further into documentary with this double header, because he's also done a video store documentary called Video Heaven that came out this year. I was kind of like, oh, okay, so this is a nice new chapter for a director I'm quite interested in, and I assumed that Pavements would be the one that has, the absolutely monster length behind it, considering the amount that it tries to put on its plate. But no, it's actually Video Heaven. That one's about 3 or 4 hours. I can't remember the specifics, but the fact that this one is quite a reasonably length movie, I found quite interesting. So yeah, but it was basically that news about Alex Ross Perry, and one of my favorite podcasts, the Next Picture Show from the Film Spotting family of podcasts. They often do double bills of recent films and then also films that might have informed them. They did a double bill with Todd Haynes' I'm Not There, which is another film that I haven't seen due to a lack of in-depth knowledge on the subject. I mean, I like Bob Dylan well enough, but I don't think I'm quite equipped enough to go in there and be like, oh, I understand all of these clever references.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I was a little dubious about coming to Pavement with literally no knowledge of this band whatsoever.
I had the same, before we move on, I should say, I had the same feeling about I'm Not There, but that is a film I really like. I'm at the same level as you. There's plenty of songs of his that I like. I could never say that I'm the kind of expert that is required to call yourself a Dylan fan. So I have no idea why there's a giraffe in it, for instance, but, I enjoyed it a lot. So I suppose the obvious follow-up question is, coming into it as not a Pavement fan, in fact, having not heard of Pavement before this project was announced, what's your thoughts on them now?
I like them well enough. I've tried to kind of approach them from like a greatest hits perspective
Mm,
in what because I started off by listening to Slandered and Enchanted in the
mm,
middle of traffic, a really bad traffic jam, and I was kind of like, oh, okay. If I was a little angrier about this, I might vibe with this a little bit better. But it was quite a
yeah.
nice day. I had the window down. The the breeze was coming in. I couldn't get too pissed off about anything. Um, but yeah, so then I kind of went a bit wider after I'd watched the film. And I had watched the film with my partner as well, who she's a massive Pavement fan.
Mm,
So as soon as she saw like on the cinema listings that there was a Pavement movie coming out, she was like, "Oh, we have to see that!" And it dropped on Mubi really, really quickly after that as well. So we watched it there, and she was singing along quite frequently throughout. Big smile on her face. So I think living vicariously through
mm,
her enjoyment of the film definitely enhanced mine, but also I think watching the film as a layman, I was more in tune to if I was enjoying the film at a very, very base level with having no nostalgia whatsoever. It
mm.
kind of reminded me of watching Dig. Have you seen Dig?
Yeah, I
The
love Dig. Yeah.
There you go. So for the listener, that is about the rivalry between the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown Massacre, which
Yeah.
again a friend introduced me to earlier in the year, and sort of gave me a sort of Spark Notes history of the band, and then I went and watched the film, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." Okay, yeah, I like that this can stand on its own 2 feet, and also the music's really really good. So I think probably a similar kind of level of enjoyment with Pavement now.
Mm.
I think I'm erring towards Crooked Rain as my favorite of their albums, without having listened
Great
to it
record.
too in depth. But I do like Gold Sounds. I do like Range Life.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I
I
want a
think
Range Life. Who doesn't?
for a lot of Pavement fans, you've just exhibited the correct opinion there, I think. I don't think there's like a solid standout, like there isn't really a Pavement album which everyone agrees is obviously their
Mm,
best, and all of them have someone making the case for them. But I'll tell you what, if you say Crooked Rain at a Pavement fans convention, something which might exist according to this movie, you will not cause any fights. Everyone loves Crooked Rain. It's universally loved by fans.
nice. I love to be neutral.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like Crooked Rain came out in that sort of awkward power vacuum in American rock music where Kurt Cobain had died. It was obvious that there was going to be a shift somewhere, if only because grunge, which had been the dominant rock form, had lost its figurehead. But there was still this kind of sense that alternative music is big money, and a lot of bands who wouldn't have been anywhere near MTV were getting picked up by MTV in a sense of, well, if Nirvana can make it, I guess, what else are we missing? What other noisy, incomprehensible music might the kids like these days? And so, I mean, Crooked Rain has an absolutely irresistible hit single, which is Cut Your Hair.
Mm,
And for a moment, it looked like Pavement might be about to make it as quite a big mainstream band, and they almost about it. They willfully avoided this. I, in preparation for this, listened to the massive reissue version of Wowie Zowie that came out about 2006, I would say, something like that. Which, I mean, there's a running joke in this film about how Wowie Zowie is a ridiculously overlong album anyway. So part of me was putting it on thinking, wow, this is going to be quite self-indulgent. But it's really funny. All of the songs they've cut off it, catchy 2.5 minute pop songs with harmonies they're quite skewed and noisy because that's how Pavement roll, but they did have an album's worth of cut your hair style material that they just did not put out deliberately. And I think that leads into one of the big themes of the film, which is, what does it mean to make it, and what does it mean to deliberately not make it as well?
Hmm. Well, yeah, I found the way that it takes itself seriously in certain moments and then just completely, you know, for lack of a better word, shits the bed with other parts. Um, yeah, I found that quite interesting, particularly the Pavement biopic that
Mm,
they're making, which for a little while sort of convinced me that Joe Keery was actually preparing to play Stephen Malcolmus.
yeah.
Um, because that I bought because he was actually putting in the legwork, he was getting the accent down, and yeah, he's well cast. He does actually quite resemble the guy.
Mm,
Um, but then eventually, when it sort of shows you the footage that they're making with Tim Heidecker and Jason Schwartzman and all, it doesn't hang together and it doesn't look like a real movie, which kind of put
no.
me off a little bit. It looked like a kind of fake movie when all the rest of it was quite nicely portrayed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like a sort of
obviously,
sub Bohemian Rhapsody kind of
yeah.
music biopic.
Obviously, I mean, part of the joke, a big part of the joke of the film is that the music biopic within the film, which is called Range Life, is a
Mhm.
ridiculous project that turns every kind of low-key, slackerish dilemma of Pavement's career into howling Hollywood melodrama. But you're right, it doesn't look quite right, and that is one of the things I found that was quite odd because it's like I've read someone on the Pavement subreddit, which I was delighted to discover while researching this episode. Where have you been all my life, Pavement subreddit? But someone said it's basically like a sort of Funny or Die sketch that's been dropped into the middle of the movie,
Yes,
and I think
yes, it
that's
is.
not unfair.
Yeah, I think it looked like B-roll as well, and I don't know
Yeah.
if that's just because it was like deliberately ungraded, but
Mm,
yeah, there was something about it which I found very um, disappointing, I'll say,
yeah.
but also I don't feel like many things in this film are a mistake,
Mm,
and I feel like that kind of half-arsing of the big prestige picture is a sort of slacker statement in itself. And
maybe.
because of that, I think
Yeah.
it still does hold more of authenticity than something like uh, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, yeah, I mean, this area of the music biopic parody has been well trodden, I think, both in things like parodies about fictional artists like Walk Hard or Popstar Never Stop, Never
Hmm.
Stopping, and
Hmm.
also recently, someone basically did, a full movie of the joke in Range Life, which is Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was reading Alex Ross Perry's interviews, and I mean he is very impressed with himself, talking about these radical new forms he did, and calling it a 1.4 dimensional cinema, which is man, shut up.
I mean,
Um,
I mean, he is right that it has four sides.
yeah, it's
The
it's a
film has
definite rectangle. You do travel.
two-dimensional shape.
I mean, time, time passes as you watch it, and that is the fourth dimension. So he's not wholly wrong here. Um, but I think I'm starting to sort of crack open the egg of where my sort of head was when I came into this, because I kind of came in the opposite direction to
Hmm.
you, where the only Alex Ross Perry film I've seen is Listen Up, Philip.
Hmm.
Uh, and I came out of it and thought, that's an absolutely horrific film. I'm never going to
I don't like
watch
it
it.
either. Yeah.
Oh, good, good. I
Yeah.
thought I don't want to watch anything this director does ever again, even if by some fluke he makes a 2-hour meta biopic about one of my favourite bands. But what are the chances of that? I said 10 years ago. And more fool me, I think.
Well, you got to remember he also co-wrote the Christopher Robin film
Which I've
with
never
Ewan
seen.
McGregor. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's keeps popping up in lots of interesting places. But yeah, he definitely has a vibe of it's that sort of Brooklyn filmmaker
Yes.
vibe of being fairly smug, kind of undeniably talented in certain way, but you know also knows quite a lot of famous people. So
Yes.
all
Yeah.
respect to him, really. But yes,
Slightly
definitely.
less respect to him in my case, I think. But
We'll watch Queen
uh,
of Earth. That'll get you back on board.
I'll give it a try. I
Yeah.
do find that whole Brooklyn scene, I found it kind of alienating when it
Mm.
was just like people saying, "Oh, he's got a cameo from Nick Pinkerton in his, in Golden Exits." It's like, oh well, that guarantees one good review at least. But now it's like he's doing stuff like, what was that fucking thing Sean Price Williams directed?
The
The
Sweet East.
Sweetest. Fucking hell.
Oh, I quite like
Yeah.
that.
Just as the whole kind of downtown Brooklyn art scene becomes more of
Mm.
a front for Peter Thiel's investments, I just think the whole place should be wiped off the face of the earth with a nuclear bomb. Um, so, so it's quite a tough sell to me, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And yet here you are.
And yeah, here I am. And I will say this about Pavements. I didn't hate it.
Mm. Yay.
It has that going for it. But it's like my broader point that I'm making, I guess, is that there is a clash here, I think, between the kind of counterculture, the kind of West Coast counterculture that Pavement represented,
Hmm.
and the kind of East Coast counterculture Alex Ross Perry represents, which is like it comes through most clearly to me in the Pavement musical. They have a running strand in this about a Broadway musical being put on called Slanted exclamation mark Enchanted, which very good. I laughed. Good work there. But I just think Stephen Malkmus would find that funny, and Alex Ross Perry clearly found that funny, but on slightly different levels. I think Stephen
Mm.
Malkmus would find that funny just because he thought it would be absurd to be celebrated in that way. Whereas I think Alex Ross Perry thinks musicals are mainstream and lame and stupid. And
Hmm.
there's that, it's not quite a clash, but I'm always very aware that there's a slight dissonance. It's not, the film is just not quite how I see Pavement. And I'm aware that's a very personal thing. I'm aware
Hmm.
that's something that people older than me have been saying, all the time when films have been made about Queen and Bob Dylan and Elvis. And now it's my turn to just see a film and say, it's not wrong. It's just
It's not
off.
yours. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes something that felt very much mine, even if that's delusional. Pavement were never as big a band as this film makes out, but they were big.
Yeah.
They sold records. People knew who they were.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I think if you liked them because you appreciated something that felt a bit insular and in-jokey and hard to decipher, and that forms a very personal bond, I think, when art is like that.
Yeah. I also question though the
Mm,
the integrity behind making a piss tape musical called Slanted Enchanted
mm.
and then actually putting it on and it getting quite good reviews. Like even if you do just put it on for, whatever it was, 2 or 3 nights that it actually ran, but people enjoyed it, people responded to it,
Mm.
and I don't know. I guess once you put something out there into the world, it sort of doesn't have the same intent because it's
Yes,
now other people's.
you have
It's
to
it's
deal
their
with the
perception that
fact that they might
yes,
see you do. Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
it's
So I thought that it was quite interesting that they made it with enough, attention to detail, and they cast the
mm,
guy who was in the American Idiot musical
yes.
as the lead guy in this one, who reminded me of Mike Birbiglia, and it was really putting me off. Like, yeah. I was just like, it's I got Mike Birbiglia on here. No, okay. Yeah. So it was a film of many different sort of like I'm gonna say it 4-dimensional conflicting pieces where it was like there are ironies within the ironies that don't really translate outside of themselves because there are so many like different perspectives and in jokes that I don't quite know how it adds up. And I guess that
Mm,
sort of kept me going throughout, even though I thought it was too long. I thought the
yeah,
film
yeah.
just it felt like it was looping around back on itself plenty, but I guess that's what you get when you're trying to tell 4 different storylines at once.
That's
Um,
quite an odd
yeah,
structure, though, isn't it? I
very.
remember sort of thinking afterwards that it's quite odd that Perry has talked a lot about trying to avoid the standard rock biopic format, and
Mm,
obviously there's a lot of ways in which he clearly has done that, but structurally he doesn't. Structurally, the sort of narrative skeleton of this film is a chronological retelling of Pavement's career, just
yeah.
where everything is exaggerated by being seen through these filters of like range life, hamming up all of the big moments in their career or something. I
Hmm.
think it might have been better if some of these things have been were placed as a kind of fictional narrative that maybe, you have the reunion shows that leads to the museum opening, which inspires someone to put on a musical, which then gets optioned by Hollywood. Maybe a kind of sequential structure like that would have got rid of this awkward feeling that it detonates a lot of very good jokes at the start and
Hmm.
then spends the next 2 hours telling them again.
Hmm. Yeah, good point. Good point. Because it is framed initially under that. Oh, it's the big, reunion anniversary, so we're
Mm,
going to do
yeah,
all these celebratory things. But the fact that none of them ever kind of really intersect, I think, yeah, there's no knock on effect which sort of creates one from the other,
yeah.
or it just becomes all these sort of little Easter eggs that exist in and of themselves and not really. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly, and I think also as well, I guess it's a nice stylistic touch when they go into split screen to sort of
yeah,
illustrate how both of them are going,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and I guess that's a nice sort of economical way of compressing what might be a 5 hour film by itself into a cool 2 hours. But
Mm,
yeah, definitely, yeah, good point about how it lays out all of its cards and then keeps showing you them again and
yeah.
again. Yeah.
And I will say that that cross-cutting, that kind of back and forth, does like it is one of the touches about the film that I think is authentically pavement-ish. That they have this
Hmm.
collage aesthetic that goes, throughout their records from the sort of scribbled on newspaper clipping sleeves that they have to Stephen Malkmus's lyrics, which frequently feel like he's just drawing words out of a bag. Um, and there is a straighter, I use the term advisedly, um, documentary made by Lance Bangs, who was a big music video maker and videographer of that generation of alternative rock bands. He worked a lot with REM and, kind of eccentric mainstream rock bands like that, bands who still had a foot in the indie scene. And that's very much a collage film. That's if they know anyone who has a scrap of footage of Pavement, throw it in there. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a TV appearance, a home movie, a rehearsal, a live show, a music video. Absolutely chuck it in, and it feels like the band themselves. It feels like it captures a bit of its time. When I think of the 90s, I think of scrappiness. I think of the 90s as a very scrapbooky time, a time when culture still had a bit of the ragged edges and people were excited at just being able to hop from one thing to another and not caring if it was all smooth and aesthetically consistent. And I think Pavement were one of the big bands who exemplified that ethos.
Mm-hmm. I was always a Green Day boy, though. That's the thing.
Everyone
And
has
also,
their
I
own
think,
90s. Yeah, no,
but
absolutely. I
also,
like Green Day. I have nothing against them.
yeah, fair. I mean, I think it might also just be like a sort of a timing thing because,
Yeah,
I believe I was alive when Pavement broke up for the first time, but
yeah.
I mean, just about,
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely.
so I think it was always going to be like a kind of nostalgic thing for me to kind of absorb not only them but like the culture that they were like
Yes.
surrounding. Because like a lot of my earlier memories are from a society that was a lot more fraught with fear and reactionary politics.
How things have changed.
Yeah, for the better, definitely, yes. Um, yeah, so I think with Pavement, it was always going to be like a kind of, oh god, punk was cool, wasn't it? It was always going
Hmm.
to be like a distant time which I would never be able to kind of experience myself. Maybe we might be due another one of those if some cataclysmic world event happens. If Brooklyn gets wiped off the face of the earth with a nuke,
Or if something bad happens, uh,
one can hope, but yeah. So I think it was always going to be something that was like at a remove from me. So the biopic of the band from a culture that I kind of only was picking up the scraps of the scrapbook of
yes.
as a youngin. Yeah, it was always something that was going to be a bit of an uphill battle for me, and I
And
think
I get that. I
that's
mean,
like a yeah, go on.
no, I'm fascinated by the 70s, and I
Hmm.
wish I could have lived through the 70s. And part of it is
Yeah.
I think you do tend to think of the decade you just missed out on as being
Hmm.
like the
Hmm.
hidden key. Maybe if I had
Yes.
that, I would be able to understand what the events of my life and the culture of my life was reacting against.
Yeah, definitely. I've got to ask though, in terms of the casting of the film
Yeah.
of Range Life, how did you feel about that? Did you go, I buy that, or were you like, that's just a joke in and of itself?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, it has this get out of jail free card where it's like, how good does it have to be to work as a
Hmm.
spoof biopic?
Hmm.
Not spot on, I would say, but they get it close to working, which is like the funniest way that you could do this, I think.
Hmm.
Joe Keery is pretty close to Stephen Malcolmus by the end of it. Nat Wolff is a pretty good Scott Canberg. I think that's more funny than either getting it 100% right or just deliberately doing it completely wrong in this instance.
Hmm. I thought that the casting of Fred Hetchinger was quite good because there was a period at the end of last year where he was in like three things that I saw in the space of 4 weeks. I think it
Yeah.
was Gladiator 2, Craven the Hunter, and Nickel Boys. He turned up in all of them. So I was just like,
Right.
oh well, of course, like casting him in this Pavement thing before, you know, this was
Yeah.
even like all cut together or whatever. I think they kind of got ahead of the curve of him being like the supporting actor of the moment.
Yeah,
So
that's a
that
good
really
point.
was quite prophetic for me. I was quite impressed there.
I think he's a good like visual match as well for Bob
Yeah,
Nastanovich. You know,
definitely.
he's really, but yeah, I like Fred Hetchinger a lot as well. I liked him in what is probably the biggest role I've seen him in Thelma. You know, the movie with
Of
June Squibb.
course, yes, yes. I
Yeah, I
missed
think
out on that one, but I wanted to see it.
he's great in that. He is
Hmm.
really, really good in that. I suppose it would be easy to judge it if there was a bit more of the biopic in it, but apparently it was cut down quite a lot. There's this odd story that I've been trying to get a proper bead on, but it's almost impossible to. Something was premiered under the title Range Life, and people were. It was an open screening. People were
Hmm.
allowed to just pay their tickets and come in. And there's some disagreements about whether that was actually a film screening of the film within the film, or whether it was an advanced screening of Pavements that had more of the range life material
Mm.
in it than the finished one.
Hmm.
Stephen Malkmus was interestingly critic. I don't think you can really call Stephen Malkmus critical. It's not his vibe. But he said, there was an early version they showed where I don't know. Didn't really think much of that, but all of that stuff's out of the movie now, so that's fine. So your
Oh,
guess is as good as mine.
yeah, that's interesting. Even though there's obviously like a level of japery going on there, that he was still
Mm.
like, yeah, yeah, but not that though.
I mean, there is always the possibility that he's extending the joke.
Mm. Hmm. Four-dimensionally, you could say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I mean, we're practically out of 5 dimensions now, haven't we? We've got like height, width, distance, time, smart arsery, the fifth
Smart archery.
dimension.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just want to double back a bit because you
Uh-huh.
briefly mentioned the musical, and I think that's the big strand of the film we haven't pulled yet.
Hmm.
Again, on the Pavement subreddit, that seems to be the most divisive bit, and I found that very funny because the more I think about how the musical works and what it does with the songs, the more I think it's my favorite, like running strand of the film.
Right, interesting. I think it was the most difficult one for me to get into because I was trying to absorb the songs first at
Mm.
face value, then second as they were being reinvented for a kind of, angsty
Yeah,
musical a la Rent or American Idiot.
yeah.
And uh, I think that was the one that I found most slippery.
Mm.
And I was also sort of distracted by the fact that I was like, I recognize the blonde woman from something. And I looked it up and she's the mother in Beau is Afraid. And I was like, or the young version of the mother in Beau is Afraid. And I was like, there you go. And then by that point it was halfway done. So I think I'd
Yeah.
lost the thread a little bit. But please do delve into why you liked it so much.
Well, in terms of the reaction it got from other Pavement fans, I think part of it's
Hmm.
just simply if you listen to a singer like Stephen Malkmus, you probably don't like big sort of belty musical theatre singing,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people just didn't like it on that level. But it's the one where the film's levels of irony are, as you said, slippery. There's the most complexity in it without having to push it too hard, because like on the one hand, you've got, as you said, the lead actor from the stage version of American Idiot singing In the Mouth of Desert, which is a pretty sort of fuzzy, lo fi kind of taciturn song. And he's belting it like he's doing Memory in Cats, and that's very funny. That can't not be funny, and I think they deliberately chose that song because it's absurd to imagine it in that context. But then when they're singing something like Grounded or Fight This Generation, one of the more introspective Pavement songs, part of me is thinking this kind of works, or I can make a kind of sense from this. And part of it is being a fan of something allows you to get more emotional range out of it than people who don't like it. You know, I'm a big Radiohead fan. I understand fully why other people think Radiohead are just a miserable band. I think there is stuff in Radiohead's music that's cathartic and even joyful. But I get that because I'm a fan. Whereas from a outsider's perspective, I fully appreciate that Pavement sound like a bunch of snarky slackers dicking around singing nonsense. Again, that's not wholly wrong. You know, it's not like I don't understand where that comes from, but there are also songs like, you know, Range Life and Don't Cry, which genuinely hit me in the fucking feels. And the musical, in a film which is otherwise very weighted towards the kind of snarky, ironic side of Pavement, the musical is a reminder that actually these songs do have heart. It's a weird heart, but it's there.
What did you think of the exhibition part of the film?
The exhibition is straight up funny, I think. You know, in terms of that kind of that point at which the irony is tainted by something being actually good. I will say I love that fake Absolute Vodka advert with the cover of Wowie Zowie in it. I would have that on my wall. I think it looks great, even though, you know, the joke is obviously that this is one of the horrific sellout things that this movie's version of Pavement does. I think it's probably the slightest bit of the film. I don't think it goes through as many sort of dramatic reversals as the musical or the biopic or the band's own story. But it's a lot of fun, and it means that this is the second film that I've done for Pop Screen that features snail mail. I mean, I love snail mail, but I did not expect them to have one big pop star vehicle, let alone two.
Yeah. I think also as well for me this bit was, I think, possibly the only time I saw the film crack. In that I can't remember which one of the band it was, but he was genuinely taken aback by the fact that it was real, and he was just like, "God, I thought this was supposed to be fake."
Yeah,
And it's the only time that anybody acknowledges that there might be a joke going on, and the fact that he's actually sort of quite moved by the level of in-depth, you know, mounting of this exhibition. I thought that was quite moving. So I think that was probably the part of the film that made me warm to it more.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
little
I get
scrapping
that.
moment where
Yeah.
you see something beneath the surface,
Yes.
beneath the pavement, if you will.
Under the pavement, the fields, as they said in 1968. Yeah, and I get that. Yeah, and that hadn't hit me as hard, but I think that's very true, and I think it's another example of like the emotional depth that's in these ostensibly very silly songs. I was reading an interview in Vanity Fair with Stephen Malkmus that came out last year, and it has this beautiful bit in it from the writer Joe Hagan, who says, "I attended those Pavement reunion shows. I was surprised at how people were jumping up and down and singing along. That is so not how it was in the 1990s, where people just faintly nodded their heads with ironic detachment. My friend David Gilbert and I talked about that, and he sent me a text this morning. Did the irony resolve into something almost strangely earnest in the songs after all these years? Did the songs themselves grow up without ever changing? And I think at its best, the movie captures that. It captures that moment when something goes from being a very involved in joke to something that actually connects with people.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that. But
Mm.
again, having not had the barrel aged songs,
Yeah,
they are as fresh on my ears as they would have been back in 1993 had I been alive back then. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I'm very glad that there is that level of warmth to the material now, and then to the fans as well who've you know grown with the music as well. Maybe talk to me in 20 years. Let's do a pop screen revisited,
So
and then we
what's
can maybe do a pop screen biopic in there as well.
that's it? Yeah, yeah. We'll have the Pop Screen Museum exhibit going,
Hmm.
and the Broadway musical, of course.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Can't
with
wait.
Rachel Zegler playing me, obviously. And
God, go on. Who am I? Who am I? Eh?
I'm in a corner now because I don't follow musical theatre, so it's yeah, basically impossible for me to get a good line out of that.
Well, I'll just be the American idiot guy because
That's it. That's
they seem
fine.
to love him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll
Yeah.
be about 70 years old probably, so that'll be great. Hey, Graham. Question: would you
Mm.
be able to come up with a word that rhymes with pavement?
You know, I remember first listening to Harness Your Hopes, and we'll have to talk about the afterlife of Harness Your Hopes because what a story. But I listened to Harness Your Hopes for the first time with my uncle, who is both a big Pavement fan and a lover of crosswords.
Right.
So as soon as that line came on, he just looked up from his paper and went, arraignment.
Well, the only one that I could actually get in terms of in terms of two syllables rhyming with it, and
Yeah,
I thought it was quite poetic, and it also does feed into how Stephen Malkmus felt about doing music after a while. Enslavement.
that's good.
Oh yeah,
Because
how about that?
he came on stage at the last Pavement gig before their initial split with a pair of handcuffs on that he said were
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
reflecting how he was feeling right now. So yeah,
There you
after
go.
a while, yeah.
Cracked it.
But it's
Maybe.
funny
Who knows?
because like I was reflecting on stuff like Slow Century, and that came out in about 2002. So it wasn't like they were buried forever.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pretty quick transition from Pavement of a touring band who put out an album every couple of years to the Pavement reissue project. And I guess it's one way in which the sort of comic fantasy here is also acknowledging something quite real, which is that Pavement do have a very strange afterlife. There is a song by Beabadoobee called I Wish I Was Stephen Malkmus, which I keep waiting for Stephen Malkmus to reciprocate with a song called I Wish I Was Beabadoobee, but he has not. Um, and and the other one is Harness Your Hopes, which that story at the end of the film about it becoming an unexpected Spotify algorithm hit is true.
Mm.
It was a B-side that they just threw away on the. I think it was on the B-side of Major Leagues, definitely one of the singles from the last album. As Stephen Malcolm told it, he was in a bakery in Portland and he heard it on the radio. He said, very Stephen Malcolm's line. I guess I had some naive hope that it was just some like barista there who was a Pavement fan and had put their own playlist on rather than than just like clicking the Spotify shuffle and leaving it on all day. But yeah, for some reason, that song is now by a massive distance Pavement's most streamed song on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And why has never been cleared up, because I think answering why would require some knowledge of Spotify's algorithm and how it works and how it selects tracks to present to its listeners, which is something that no Silicon Valley company will ever voluntarily talk about.
I did notice that it was the top one on Apple Music as well, which is where I listen to mine. So I don't know if that is just the knock-on effect of, the inexplicability of that being the Spotify one, or if it's the same, algorithm vomit.
Yes.
But I thought that song was as good as any of the others that I heard.
They were always a good B-sides band. I feel happy that I grew up in the last era when a B-sides band could be a thing. It mattered a lot to me that bands like that I loved growing up, like Pavements or Manic Street Preachers or REM, did actually put some effort into making good B-sides. But yeah, it feels like a very Pavement thing that their signature song now is something they stuck on a B-side right at the fag end of their recording career. But yes, any other thoughts before we wrap up?
I think because I had very few expectations going into this. I don't have a tremendous amount to be excited about either way. I'd say this is a pretty nice way to spend a couple of hours. Not an especially enlightening one if you, like me, are coming to it from no prior knowledge whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I'd say if you do watch it with a Pavement fan, that will light up the room a little bit.
Yeah.
And it does help to have somebody to footnote that with asterisks and stuff. So yeah, I think it's given me enough of a taste of the band, which has got me to try it out. In another sense, that's led me to go, yeah. If that were to come on the radio, I'd be like, oh yeah, Pavement. But I'm not gonna go out of my way to keep it in permanent circulation on my podcast, but on my playlist even. But you never know. You never know. Let it marinate.
Yeah.
It's only been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, very true. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to finish off with a quote from that Vanity Fair interview, which I think is just wonderful and exemplifies Stephen Malcolm's attitude towards success, which is, we weren't ready to be president, but it's okay just to be, I don't know, governor of Rhode Island.
Well, if he's happy with his own municipality, that's good. That's really nice
Absolutely.
to know.
Yeah.
We need people with that level of ambition in the world.
I think
nice artistic
yeah.
middle managers.
Yeah, just to hustle a bit. Just have a
just
bit
a
of a
smidge.
hustle. Yeah, that's an ethos that we need to bring back. Speaking of hustle, Simon, tell people where they can find you online.
Very good, very good. Side shuffle into the hustle there, Graham. Thanks. I am writing currently for the Geek Show, for Eastern Kicks. I'm working on an article that may be out in Film Stories in November or December. I won't see any more on that unless in case I jinx it. You can find me, Simon Ramshaw, on Letterboxd, Instagram, X, Blue Sky as well. And I've put together a muck rack recently as well. So if you're interested in viewing all of my stuff together, just look me up on there, Simon Ramshaw. There I am.
Good stuff. As for me, you can find me on Instagram by searching for Graham W. Film. I'm also on Letterboxd. Just search for Graham Williamson. And I'm also regularly writing for the Geek Show's Patreon, which we mentioned briefly earlier. I'm doing regular X-Files reviews on there. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with Simon's partner, who I'm going to grill about her favourite Peel Session version of Box Elder. But
Honestly, don't tempt her. She might. She might.
But until then, I've been Graham.
I've been Simon.
And we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.